Can you rank these suits from your past role from the least comfortable one to the most comfortable one? Moon Knight, Star Wars, X-Men Apocalypse, and Dune.
Stevie.
Steven. I can't tell the difference between life and dreams.
สวัสดีค่ะเริ่มต้นแคมมาเพจคอนเทนต์ครีเอเตอร์ของ The Standard Pop ค่ะสำหรับ Special Interview ของเราในวันนี้นะคะเป็น2นักแสดงนำจากซีรีส์ซูเปอร์ฮีโร่เรื่องใหม่ของค่าย Marvel Studio นั่นก็คือเรื่อง Moon Knight ที่เตรียมให้เราได้ชมผ่านทาง Disney Plus กันแล้วนะคะเรื่องราวของ Moon Knight อัศวินจันทราที่มีความเกี่ยวข้องกับโลกของเทพเจ้าอียิปต์โบราณกับสตีเวนแกรนท์ชายหนุ่มธรรมดาในยุคปัจจุบันที่มีปัญหาเรื่องตัวตนแล้วก็เผชิญกับความฝันแปลกๆอยู่เสมอสำหรับในวันนี้ค่ะเราได้2นักแสดงนำทั้งออสการ์ไอแซคผู้รับบทเป็นมาร์คสเปกเตอร์สตีเวนแกรนท์แล้วก็มูนไนท์ของเรานั่นเองรวมโดยนักแสดงหน้าใหม่จากอียิปต์อย่างเมย์คาลามาวีผู้รับบทเป็นไลล่าตัวละครใหม่ที่ไม่เคยเปิดเผยในเวอร์ชันคอมิกส์มาก่อนแต่ก่อนที่จะไปพบกับพวกเขาอย่าลืมกด subscribe กดติดตามกด follow ช่อง The Standard Pop ด้วยนะคะจะได้ไม่พลาดสัมภาษณ์ exclusive แบบนี้อีกในอนาคตถ้าพร้อมแล้วไปเจอกับมูนไนท์ได้เลยค่ะI'm Ramton from the Standard Pop Thailand. How are you today?
Hi, very good. How are you doing?
Okay, let's jump right in. In the show, you portray a double character at the same time, and there's always just you and your reflection. How did you switch between Mark Spector and Stephen Grant? Is there something like, did you mess up the lines sometimes?
It was challenging, yeah. I mean, I had kind of stayed within Steven for a long time when we first started shooting and then slowly started doing Mark, and I found that to be really challenging. But as I got more comfortable with both characters, it started to get easier to switch between the two. But often what it would be is I would choose one character to be, and we would shoot that character for the whole day. And then once we were finished with all of that character, then we would switch to the other one, so I didn't have to go back and forth so much.
What I love about Moon Knight is not just a fun superhero with a twist. It has a touch of Night at the Museum with Indiana Jones and Fight Club at the same time. But it also tackles the issue like mental health and dissociative identity disorder. How did you dig deep into the character study?
Well, yeah, for me, that's what was the most exciting, which is to really make it a character study and to understand his point of view and to really make the entire series about dissociative identity disorder, and that everything that you see is a symbol or an expression of what's happening internally to the character. And so I talked to a lot of mental health professionals. I watched documentaries on it, and I read this one book in particular that was so great called The Fractured Mind by Robert Oxman, where he talks about his life and his struggle with DID, and it just was really helpful. We ended up using a lot of language from that book as well.
And with the every MCU movie and series, there are already high expectations from the fans of doing the character justice. Do you feel any sort of pressure from this?
No, I think at this point I've really developed the muscle to be able to just cut that part off and not think about what's going to happen and just focus on making this thing as good as it can be, you know. But the thought, before signing on, there's definitely some thought of like, what am I doing here? This is a big risk. A lot of people are going to see this. But once I sign on, then it's just about trying to make it as good as it can be.
Cool, very cool. Last question. Can you rank these suits from your past role from the least comfortable one to the most comfortable one? Moon Knight, Star Wars, X-Men Apocalypse, and Dune.
Least comfortable for sure is Apocalypse. Most comfortable, I mean, I think probably Moon Knight actually, because Star Wars I had to be in the cockpit and that was not very comfortable, and Dune I was in that crazy armor and still suit. But actually I'd say Moon Knight was the most comfortable out of those.
Thank you so much, Isaac, Oscar, for joining us today, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
You really don't remember our adventures or our life together.
God, I wish I could embrace it.
You look different.
All right.
Alrighty. Hi May. I'm เริ่มต้น
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So I want to start off by asking you, what was your first reaction when Marvel called you to, you get the job for the MCU?
It was my manager. She called me and she's like, "Have you heard back?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Well, I have." And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You got it." And then I cried. I was so happy. I screamed and I cried.
Are you a Marvel fan before?
I watched all the movies in order, but I can't say like I didn't grow up being a comic book like a Marvel comic book reader or anything, but I've always loved them.
Okay. And speaking of comic book and your character Layla, she didn't exist in the comic book, right? But how did you create that character and bring it to life to the screen?
It took like a village to help create Layla. Like I spoke a lot with Mohammed Diab and his wife. I had my stunt doubles. I had, there were other women on set that I would, mainly I wanted to turn towards Middle Eastern women and, find out their experience because it was important to me that she's sort of the manifestation of a woman who's grown up in the Middle East and not someone who's grown up in the West.
Perfect. And you're half Egyptian and Palestinian, and your character is also Arabic. Middle East woman. How does this role mean to you in terms of bringing your culture and history to the screen?
I have such an immense pride. I like to be able to. I'm so happy Marvel is giving this space to the Middle East, and it's even more like astounding that I get to be a part of that.
Last question. Last week, Moon Knight was premiered at the British Museum. And if you can steal one artifact or a relic from the museum, what would it be?
I didn't look around at everything. I can't answer that until I looked. No, we were like, go here, go here, go here. But I'd love one of those statues. But I still would want to go look around at everything before I make my pick,
What if I go to Egypt? Apart from the Great Pyramid of Giza, what should I go to?
Oh, you should go. There are a couple places that are outside of Cairo, more on the coast, that are very like spiritual and beautiful by the water that you should check out.
I'm very spiritual, and so thank you so much for your time today, May, and thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
It's a little more complicated than that.